Hey there, it's Mark from Men Who Bullet. Thanks for hanging out with me today as we check out the brand new notebook from Leuchtturm1917. It's called Outlines, and it is known as the weatherproof notebook. I've never heard of that before. It makes me want to throw this outside while it's raining or snowing and see how it holds up. We're not going to do that today, but we are going to put it to the test. I'm going to be using all types of stationery that I got back there: pens, gel pens, markers. We're going to throw stamps on here and even watercolor, because for paper that is made out of nautical grade paper, I would assume that it wouldn't hold very well, right? It's supposed to kind of resist water a little bit. And I really want to see what kind of pens hold up, because once we're done with our pen test, never done this before, I'm going to just douse the page with water and we're going to see what happens. So let's go ahead and get into it. We'll check out all of the features of the Outlines notebook. We'll do a full pen test and then we're going to soak it. Let's see what happens. All right, I can honestly say that I've never been more excited to mess up a journal before. I think it's just the challenge that Leuchtturm is putting in front of me that makes me want to put this journal to the test. So as I mentioned, this is the Leuchtturm1917 Outlines notebook, the weatherproof notebook, not fully waterproof. The cover is waterproof. The inside pages are weatherproof, and we're going to really try them out. So here's what's cool about this entire notebook. So as I mentioned, we've got the waterproof cover, so this thing can have things spilled on it, whatever you want to do with it. But the paper inside, this is what's special. So this paper has the same durable wet strength paper as Germany-made nautical charts. Now, I've never seen a German-made nautical chart before, but I'm going to assume that it's something that can be used on the water. So here's the details that we got. 150 gram paper is inside of here, and that's pretty thick, which we need to be able to hold up to anything that we might throw at this. Now, I will tell you, super nice and smooth paper. So it's not like watercolor paper that has that tooth to it. This is actually really nice and smooth, and we have the dot grids in here as well. This also features a nice pocket here in the back. If you are traveling around the world, perhaps you need all of these different charts that we have back here. So we have temperature here, we have weights, we have, what is this? Moisture? I don't even know what this is. Oh, gallons to ounces. So we've got conversion charts all back here, miles per hour, kilometers per hour, and knots. So we've got all your speeds here. We've got our miles, inches, centimeters. We've got all the different types of measurement that we want back here. And then also, if you're interested in your time zones as well, you can check all of this stuff out inside of here, which is pretty impressive, especially for a notebook that's supposed to hold up to whatever we throw at it. On the front of this, we just have the introduction to this. Again, as I mentioned, the paper in this notebook has been developed for the production of nautical charts. So it's a durable and wet strength, made in Germany, 150 gram paper. We got a spot over here for your personal information if you want to add it. You also have additional contacts if you're keeping them inside of here. Love that it already has an index built into it. You know me, I love an index. I think it's probably one of the most important parts of a journal, whether you're bullet journaling or keeping it inside of any type of a journal. Knowing what you're writing and where to find it, incredibly important. And the rest of this notebook has the 89 pages that I talked about before. Pop that back here. I already wrote inside of it because I did some reels, because I've tried this out. I've poured water all over top of this and it did pretty good, but we're going to take it a step further today and really try out all types of stationery inside of this. Last thing is, this is a B6 plus paperback. So you got all of those things inside of here. So those are all the details of this notebook. I'll tell you, I'm loving it. I love the idea that you could easily just kind of pop this in your pocket. It's not a hardcover, so you can fold it if you need to, pop it inside of a backpack, really take it wherever you want. And I like the color on it too. It's super fun. So I'm actually just going to go to the back of this notebook. I'm going to do a fresh page. So we're going to use some of the pages in the back. But you know what? This is for the sake of journaling. And honestly, I want to know how things do inside of this notebook myself. You know, it's important to me to know that things will work. And I don't mind kind of putting these to the test for you so you don't have to worry about it, because I'm a friend like that. So if you've never seen a pen test here on Men Who Bullet, essentially I just try everything out on a page, things that I'm looking for. mostly is what does that bleed through look like, or ghosting, is there any? But with this one specifically, I definitely want to pay attention to how things are laying on this paper. Because this is nautical grade paper, 150 GSM paper, I have a feeling that it's probably treated in a way that repels or reduces the absorption of water. So for a fountain pen, for instance, what is that going to do? And what's the dry time going to look like? That's a really important part too. Let's start with something easy. I'm actually just going to start with a fine liner. These are the sted liner ones. Pigment liners. What do we got on here? There it is. Waterproof on paper. That's what I want. Light fast, which means that it's not going to dim if it's exposed to a lot of light, which I don't think is something you're really overly worried about when you're using this type of journal, especially for travel. So I'm just going to write fine liner. I'll tell you, it's funny writing on this paper. It does feel different. So with some other paper and journal paper, when you're writing on it, it has a little bit more of like friction. This feels like incredibly smooth, almost slippery, but it's not like I guess it's probably coated paper, right? It would have to be for it to be this weatherproofish type paper. But definitely has a slick feel to it, so be careful with the pens that you're using. Let's take a look at some brush pens. So this is one of the Tombows, one of those hard tip ones that I really like, and I can never like write with correctly, but I really want to one day. So let's just write the typical hello. It's just what we always write for some reason with these brush pens. All right, so I dropped that on there. I didn't check how quickly or if there was any kind of like leftovers, but there's not. That actually goes on there really nicely. I'm not getting any type of smearing or anything. So this is definitely like taking to the paper very quickly, which is awesome, which I want from like a normal pen. I feel like you would use one of those type of pens, or Pitt Artist pen or something along the lines of that, to write inside of here and kind of move quickly. The gel pens I would expect to work really well. These are the Tool brand that you can get. These are usually pretty inky. I haven't used these in a minute. Here we go. These also are metallic. And for whatever reason, they do not like this paper. That's so weird. All right, well, let's not use that pen. Maybe there's just a plain black one or blue one. Brand new. It still has a tip on it. There we go. So do not travel with a metallic gel pen. So we put that down. That's been on there for a few seconds. A little bit of color transfer on my finger here, but it's only been a few seconds. So probably give it 10 or so, and it would be just fine. Let's take a look at some like more fine point ones. These are the Juice Ups. This is that 03. This is like a micro pen. I've had this one for a while, and it's so fine point that it's almost like weird. I love it, but it's like almost too light. Can never please a planner, that's for damn sure. All right, let's go a little bit thicker. These here are just a nice 0.7, so a bit bolder. Now from my angle, I'm a little bit further away. I can see definitely that this ink is laying on top of this paper a little bit more. So I can guarantee that we'll get a little bit of like transfer. If I touch it, I get a little bit of transfer on my finger here. But again, that was like seconds. So I'll give it a few minutes, a minute or so. We'll come back and try it out. I'm gonna pull this. This is a Uniball. This is one of the Vision Elites. Always love this pen. This is I think this is the green one. Colors don't really matter. Not today anyway. It goes on super smooth though. Really love this paper. It's really nice paper. All right, let's try some fun ones. These are just the color dots. Have you ever seen these? They're pretty neat. Makes really big, fat color dots. And then this side has a fine point to it, so you can write color dots. Now these look really thick because of that big point. And that means a lot of ink is usually popping off and coming off of these when you're using them. So excited to see how the paper holds up. Let's take a peek. Let's see how it does.
Not too shabby. There's definitely some ghosting on here, but not terrible, especially with how much ink I dotted on there. A little extra. Let's try some more other inky pens. So let's go with like a dark color here. This is one of the acrylographs from Archer and Olive. This is a brush pen on one side and like a smaller brush on the other. Let's do hello again. It's just so easy to write that word. I think it's so fun with the brush pens because you get to do like all of the fun things here. So that's really, really dark one. So I do want to see what that looks like. Yeah, hold up. 150 GSM, what I would expect. We'll go ahead and just have some fun with some highlighters. At this point, I'm just trying to drop everything I can on this. I'm just pulling out everything. This is just a gel highlighter, which is cool. I love it, but I don't even know why I'm even using that in this thing because like it's gel, so it's gonna repel whatever you put on it. This is just one of these jelly rolls. I always want to call them jelly rollers, but jelly roll. This is Moonlight. It's 06. Now, I put that on really thick just to kind of show you. I don't know if you. Hopefully you can see it. But like I put that on there so you can see that it's on there. So I know if I touch that right now that it's going to transfer. Why even do it? Well, because I'm a glutton for whatever it is. But so this jelly roll definitely needs to spend some more time. Where these other gel pens up here, like I laid them down, I got like a little like dot of color. I put that on thick and that is still drying. I can still see the shininess of it. So I would definitely say like some of these, it's holding the ink on top of the paper a little bit more, which I think I really did just expect to kind of happen anyway. Let's go with some of the Sharpie gel pens. Some of these pens I haven't used in a minute. Like, Mark, you use all your pens? No, I don't use all my pens. This is the S gel. One of the selling features of this gel is, first of all, it's Sharpie, and it's not supposed to go through the page. We are going to try a Sharpie because I love Sharpies on paper because it usually fails, and I just like to know that it fails. But if it doesn't fail, then I'm like overly impressed by it, right? So that's the Sharpie S gel. That dried very quickly. It's supposed to, so that's great. All right. Let's do it. Let's go in for it. I'm going to try two things that always eat through paper, regardless. One is a Sharpie, just a fine point. Put it over here. What would be super cool, though, is that if it does hold up really well, then you just travel with a Sharpie, and it's a permanent marker. You never have to worry about it. This is a fun one. This is another Tombow. This is the Mono Twin. So it's got that on one side. And then we've got like a finer point one over on this side. And same deal, almost every notebook that I use that on, it eats through it. Let's do red. Gold. Just for fun, because we're doing this. All right, let's see how we did. All right, so Sharpie did not bleed through. Maybe like right here kind of did, but expected. But usually on regular journal paper, it would have been bled onto the other side of the paper. Red came in pretty thick. The Mono Twin actually did really well. I was pretty impressed by that one, so love that. All right, so last two things that we're going to try here are a stamp, and then we're going to try watercolor, and then we'll be in a good spot. Because I've used everything else. I don't think anything else needs to be tried on here. That would be like, oh no, yes, a fountain pen. You can tell that I'm playing with fountain pens when I have ink covering my hands already from it. But we're going to be using this Lavenger Cobalt Blue with my Lavenger fountain pen. A pen that I want to use a lot more, but I don't always get to. And let's do something up here. Woo! It's heavy ink. I went back to correct my E, and it dropped down a lot of ink there. So let's do something. I'm going to speed this up. Let's see how long it takes this ink to dry. All right, so that was a full minute and it is still very wet. You can also see here that because of the ink and probably the paper, a lot of feathering on here. I didn't not expect that, honestly, because this paper isn't supposed to really kind of have stuff hang up on it. But it handled it okay on that side, especially with like the larger ink spill there. But let's keep going to see how long this ink would take to dry on this paper. So at almost 2 minutes, it's still laying on there. All right, we're at 3 minutes. All right, I'm doing a bit better. There we go. All right, leave it here on that. So let's say about 3 minutes is how long that took. So do not recommend taking a fountain pen with you when you are running about fishing and hiking and being outdoorsy with this. All right, so let's do our last two things real quick. I mean, even though I sped that up, it's still, 3 minutes of time that we waited there for that ink to dry. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is going to be just one of these clear acrylic stamps. I'm going to just do this Wednesday one because it has a large surface. And the more ink, the better. It really kind of gives us a good idea of what we're doing, how it's going to work out. I'm just going to use black VersaFine ink. This is just a really great waterproof ink. Once it dries, it's waterproof. Oops, we didn't get a good stamp on that because I was too close to the edge. Or the margin. This ink usually dries pretty quickly, so definitely love that. Don't have to worry about that side of it, and it didn't bleed through, which is great. So now, the important part of this test is the watercolor. So this is what most people were most concerned about when I had posted about this, was like, wait a second, like, if this is waterproof paper, then this isn't going to work out. Like, I can't use watercolor in this. And to that I say, maybe you can't. I don't want to ruin the surprise for you, but we're going to wet this page down at the end of this video. So we'll do that. All right, so this watercolor usually just takes a second. Going to soften that baby up. I love this watercolor. It's probably one of my favorite sets of watercolor from Peppercon Arts. Using Brilliant Blue from the Mercury to Saturn collection. All right, so I've got like heavy water pigment. Zero concern about it going on. Like, it's gonna paint on there, but it definitely is hanging out on top of the paper. And then what I want to do over here is I'm just going to go a little bit lighter with the water and try to grab up more paint and put it on there. So it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is not hold on to water or let it sit on top of there. So usually with watercolor and paper, when you put that down, it like immediately at least starts to soak in. This doesn't. So like if I turn this up on its side here, you can see that all the water ran down here, and you can actually see that happening with this water over here, the watercolor. It's kind of cool looking, but it's not soaking into the paper right away. It's definitely like on the paper, but I can see where the water was not totally dry on there, right where we did it. Or again, look at it over here. The paint is kind of pulling whatever direction I'm putting this notebook. So yes, you could put watercolor in here. It's obviously laying on the page okay, but this is going to take a while to dry. It's supposed to not really hold on to water, right? That's kind of the whole idea, to weatherproof. So if it does get wet or anything, you can just kind of wipe it off. And then I would assume it's going to take a while for it to hold. But on the back here, which is fine, I'm going to wet this page anyway. Take some pictures first and then wet the page. You'll see that it did, I really put a lot of water on there. A little bit of wrinkling, not a whole lot. Again, if this were to get wet, I think you can expect that it is going to do a little something here. So we're going to go ahead and let that dry. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab a squirt bottle and we're going to wet this thing down and see how it does. I'm very excited to see that happen. Okay. I'm committing to this, but like I also don't want to ruin my desk. So here's what I did. I found one of my plant water keeper things, and what we're going to do to pour this on here. So it's been a few minutes. The watercolor is still wet on here. I would never recommend watercolor in this, just throwing that out there just from using it, but everything else is good. So this waterproof, right? Waterproof cover, not a big deal. This sits outside, gets rained on. Who cares, right? Oh no, I left my journal outside. Done. Paper is not waterproof. It is weatherproof. So let's say we're outside. Oh, I'm doing a pen test outside. Oh, it's starting to rain a little bit. Oh no, water's getting all over my page. So here's everything. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. So here's everything. Let's just go all in for it. While we're at it here. I'm sorry, Leuchtturm, for ruining your notebook, but this is for the greater good. So, things not to use on your Leuchtturm paper if it gets wet. Do not use fountain pen ink. Bad idea. Don't use Archer and Olive coleographs. Why don't you use them? Because I'm pretty sure that these are water-based pens. And so because they're water-based, they dripped right away. This highlighter, I didn't even think about highlighters being waterproof or not. Was not. That dripped off onto the pages. The gel one was going to stick no matter what. Jelly Roll actually did very good. Sharpie S Gel pen, bled, Sharpie. Do whatever you want, my friend. All of those are good. Even the watercolor held on, and the stamps did too. I'm gonna dry this off real quick. I've never felt so bad. Like, I feel bad that I want to ruin this notebook so badly. But, you know, if you're out fishing or you're camping and you take this notebook with you, like, you want to know what's up, right? So the page, it's actually, it's wet from this side because it crept over here. But, like, this side of the page, even though that spilled over there, that's not wet at all. Like, it's not. So the water did kind of like just rolled off the page. You saw that, right? So it didn't like soak through the paper. Everything we're seeing here is just from the other side, honestly. Edges, let's not count edges. Let's just count the middle here. But that's actually totally dry. So this page, though, is definitely, it's been through some things. That is, that's your water test. I've never done that in a journal before. It felt very weird putting water on a page, but loving that. So I would definitely say if the Leuchtturm Outlines is for you, you're an outdoorsy person, you like to write down notes, or you never know what's going to happen in your day-to-day life, grab yourself a fine liner, basically any type of fine liner that's waterproof. You can even use some gel pens. These markers did really good. The Jelly Roll, Sharpie, none of it bled through the paper, but you can definitely see, more of this on here. But grab a fine liner and go out into the world and, and have some fun with this journal. That's what it's here for. All right, I can officially say that I have drenched a notebook as a part of a pen test. Like, this is a first, which is pretty incredible. And I'll tell you, I'm really impressed with how much this paper is just held up. Even after a few minutes of it drying, like, it's not ruined. Like, this thing can keep on going. I can't say the same for some of the water-based inks that were used inside of here, but at least now you know what pens would work best inside of this notebook. So if you are an outdoorsy type, you love to take
analog notes as you're working in the garden or just having this with you at any point. This is a really cool notebook. I'll put all the details down in the descriptions for you below, and let me know in the comments, what did you think about this notebook? Is this something that you might get for yourself? I also have an entire playlist for you coming up next of other unboxings that we've done for notebooks and other cool products. Make sure that you check that out. A lot of cool stuff inside of there. I'll chat with you next time. See ya. Happy planning.